On a sunny Tuesday morning, as this police officer went about his duty, he noticed people pointing at him while others flashed wide grins. Typically, he didn't receive such reactions. Perplexed, he wondered what had gone wrong. He turned around, and what he saw made his heart race. The streets of Los Angeles conjure up images of traditional Hollywood glamour with swaying palm trees and plentiful sunshine. The city is also well known for being one of the most populated cities in the United States, where you can often find many people and a few animals on the streets. Most of these animals are beloved pets, but sadly, some are strays. Luckily, the lost pets amongst them usually get reunited with their owners within a few days. However, some of the homeless ones end up in animal shelters, where they are left with no choice but to wait for someone to adopt them. Most animals aren't lucky enough to choose their owners, but the one in this story is one hell of a lucky dog. This courageous pup walked up to a police officer and asked to be adopted, but would his wish be granted? One buzzing Tuesday morning, a police officer, Baron, who worked at the Los Angeles Police Department, had to work earlier than usual and started preparing to go out on patrol. It was his birthday, so he was in an ecstatic mood. He went to work with a big smile on his face, and when his colleagues showed him the gifts they had got for him, he went nuts with excitement. Before leaving home, Baron's family had also surprised him. His wife and kids had woken him up with a birthday song and read out heartwarming handwritten letters for him. And now that he got to work, his colleagues also surprised him with gifts. Well, if that's not a perfect morning, I don't know what is. What more could you ask for? Am I right? Baron also thought the surprises were over. Little did he know his day was just about to get eventful. When it was finally time to go out to patrol the street, Baron was joined by his colleague, Tavera. The two got into the patrol car and drove out of the LAPD building into the streets. The morning was quite stress-free, as there were no signs of criminal activities, and they didn't get any calls for help. But soon enough, these police officers would get pretty busy. When they got to Hobart Boulevard Street, they came out of the van and started patrolling the peaceful neighborhood. For the first few minutes, there was nothing unusual. As passersby walked past the police officers, only a few of them cared to greet them. But all of a sudden, things changed. People started staring at Baron. Some even stopped what they were doing and started looking in his direction. The policemen also noticed that people were smiling at him and some were pointing at him. What could be so amusing? Baron wondered. He turned around and finally understood why everyone was staring at him. Just a few meters away, a seemingly lost but happy puppy was following him, wagging its tail enthusiastically. Seeing the furry companion trailing him, Baron broke into a smile as the onlookers cheered. He crouched down and gently caressed the puppy, saying, "You were such a sweet boy." He looked around, hoping someone would step forward as the pup's owner, but no one did. Baron even asked if anyone knew who the adorable dog belonged to, but no one had a clue. Some claimed to have seen the pup around a couple of times. Realizing the pup was a stray, Baron couldn't believe such a sweet dog was living off the streets. As he continued patrolling, the energetic pup faithfully followed along. Every now and then, Baron would crouch down, caress the pup, and receive grateful finger licks in return. With each passing moment, Baron grew more attached to the pup and knew he couldn't just leave him behind. If no one claimed the puppy, he was ready to adopt him and give him a loving home. It was such a lovely sight to behold, and Baron's partner enjoyed every bit of it. Wouldn't you feel out of this world if an animal as sweet as this pup were to follow you around? When the pup still wouldn't leave, Tavera couldn't hold herself any longer, and she knew she had to share such a beautiful interaction with the world. So, she got out her phone and took pictures of Baron and the pup. She also made a video. Then she uploaded them on the LAPD social media accounts, and boy, within a few minutes, the comment section was buzzing like crazy. Everyone wanted to know what would become of the sweet dog, and Tavera promised to update them. Just then, Tavera suggested that they give the dog a name. After pondering for a while, the duo named him Hoover, after the street where they found him. The police officers started calling him by his new name, and the pup, who was quite intelligent, seemed to respond to their call. As their patrol shift started drawing to a close, the police officers, especially Baron, became dejected. They knew it was almost time to bid the pup goodbye, but when they returned to their patrol car and it was time to zoom off, they both knew they couldn't leave the dog behind. Besides, Hoover started running around the car as if he wanted to ride with them. It was clear that this pup was hell-bent on going with Baron wherever he went. But didn't the police officer feel the same way? Feeling responsible for the poor animal, Barron helped him into the car and Hoover rushed to the front seat. The dog seemed very comfortable in the car, as if he had been in it many times before. When they got to the police station, the officers left Hoover with their colleagues and they went ahead to do some research on the puppy. Soon enough, they were disappointed to learn that the sweet creature had owners that had abandoned him. Unfortunately, animal homelessness is still a big problem in the U.S. Approximately 70 million stray animals are living in the U.S. Sadly, only a small percentage end up being put into a shelter and the rest of them are left to fend for themselves on the streets. Although it hurt Barron to let Hoover go, he had to make the painful decision to take Hoover to an animal shelter where he would receive adequate care and love. Barron put Hoover back into his police car and he drove to a nearby shelter. But this time around, Hoover wasn't playful. It was as if he could tell that his new friend was leaving him. When they got to the Get a Rescue Foundation, the staff quickly warmed up to the dog. Of course, they were charmed by his sweet nature. After Barron left the shelter, Hoover was foremost in his mind. Even though they had only been acquainted for a few hours, he found himself worrying about the dog. Would he adjust well in the shelter? Would his next family love him and treat him right? The thoughts of the sweet pup kept Barron up all night. So a few days after he dropped Hoover off at the shelter, Barron got into his car and drove back to the shelter. When he got there, the staff immediately knew he had come for Hoover, and they took him straight to the dog's cage. When Hoover, who had already started to mellow with age, saw Barron, his demeanor instantly transformed. He leaped up in excitement, and when the staff opened his cage, he bolted towards Barron, joyfully licking his feet. Fighting back tears of happiness, the police officer, who had already made up his mind to adopt the pup, scooped Hoover up in his arms and said, "It's time to go home." The staff beamed with delight as Hoover wagged his tail furiously, overjoyed. After the adoption, Hoover quickly became a beloved member of Barron's family. He wasn't just adored by Barron's wife and children, but also embraced by his colleagues. Dogs often join workforces as mascots or emotional support animals, so the team joked about Hoover becoming the newest member of their canine unit. In a post, they wrote, "Welcome to LAPD, Hoover." The police unit also made a post on Twitter, informing their followers that Barron had adopted the dog. Update on Hoover: a lot of you have been asking what Hoover is up to these days. We are glad to tell you that Officer Barron has adopted him, and he is now living the good life with Barron and his family. I am so glad that this puppy found his forever home. What an incredible story. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.